Hey there, good morning everybody. Hold on, I'm doing my hair. Like it's been up in a braid all night and I just felt, I don't know, I felt like I was just being kind of like, just held in this space for a little bit too long. My head's just like, okay, let your hair out, girl. Oh goodness. This morning I got up, the alarm went off. It was a great big thunderstorm last night and my 5-year-old had this total freak out for so long. He got bit up by some bugs and had like an allergic reaction last night, so I'm giving him a little bit of allergy medicine and trying to calm him down in the storm, and the storm's just blowing, and I think I don't know, it sounded like it was almost like hail and stuff. The rain was coming down so hard on the bedroom wall there. But yeah, so there was this thunderstorm, so not a good night's sleep at all. And then I got up this morning, 5:55 rolls around and my alarm clock goes off, and I get up and I'm like, yes, children are asleep, and I'm sleeping with like a 3-year-old on one arm and a 5-year-old on the other arm, and we're all snuggled up. And I get up and I come downstairs and I'm just like, coffee. I need coffee, right? So yay for coffee. But I go over to the coffee pot and I'm now convinced that we have a house ghost because, alright, so brand new house, just moved into a new house last week, and boxes are everywhere and there's stuff everywhere, and we're trying to figure out, organization and where things go and all this different stuff. But in the kitchen there's a corner and we have like our coffee spot. So there's a Keurig coffee pot and there's tea and there's all the coffee and sugar and all the coffee cups there and everything, and it's a corner with cabinets in it. So I walk in there and I turn on the Keurig coffee pot, the power, right? So I turn on the power so that the water can heat up, and I set my hand down on the counter when my hand is in water. My hand is in water on the countertop, and I'm like, what is this? Why is there a pool of water on the kitchen counter? So, and I see that there's, I don't know, it seems very, very, like there's a swimming pool on my kitchen counter. So I was in the dark, and then I went and I'm like, all right, now I gotta go turn the light on. It's too early for light yet. Like I need a couple sips of coffee before I go deal with the outside light. Speaking of, here's the cups, couple sips. The whole corner next to the coffee pot, underneath everything that was sitting over there, and all the way, like underneath the toaster, everything, it was a flood. There was a flood in the corner. But it's really, really weird because I know that like my roof might need some work on it in this house and different things, so I'm like, oh yay, it's raining, so we're going to learn if there's a leak someplace, right? Never did I think that I would find something on the kitchen counter, downstairs on the kitchen counter. Still don't know where it came from, but yes, it was flooded. Absolute flooded, like somebody had just taken the hose and put the hose up there and covered the corner. So the reason why I'm late this morning to second conscious coffee of getting restarted on conscious coffees here is because my kitchen was partially underwater in a corner, and I had to literally like build an arc to get to the coffee pot almost. No, not quite that way, but it was pretty full of water over there, and I have no idea where the water came from. I'm like sticking my head underneath the cabinets trying to figure out where the water's coming from, and I have no idea where the water's coming from. It's just the weirdest thing. So now I'm convinced that the house ghost, as I'm proclaiming it, has done something, because things tend to go flying around in our house, like doors slam randomly and things just jump off of countertops and everything. And now we had a flood in the kitchen, so I don't know necessarily what that all means. I just thought that I would share it because I know that it gives people time to get on here too, and it is kind of like one of those, like, what do I do with it, right? So and I got the right coffee this morning. Yesterday I grabbed the wrong coffee in the dark, so today I have the right coffee. So yeah, so outside of thunderstorms, crappy night's sleep with preschoolers, and house ghost flop-ups in the kitchen, I guess you could say. Today's topic is really on holding space. Holding space, and I don't know why this kind of came about, but as I'm like wiping up the water, I was thinking about how, well, that's holding space right there for the water, and there's this pool of water there, and water spiritually, symbolically, has everything to do with emotion. And emotion, I don't know if there's not an emotional time in life, because if we get really truly right down to it, emotion makes up all of life. Every single moment that we are breathing and we are living, we are having emotional response to our experience in life. And to have an emotional response and not, so it's like, how do we hold space? Well, kind of like the same way my corner was holding space for all that water there. It had just good boundaries on both sides, and it was just tilted just right, and it just held space. That's all it did. It just held space. Kind of like the sky just holds space for the clouds, for the weather. The sky doesn't give a rat's rear end what the weather is doing. The sky is the sky. It just holds space. My kitchen counter is a kitchen counter. It was just holding that space for the water. But how can holding space for ourselves, holding space for, like last night, I held space for my 5-year-old who was having, this freak out attack because thunder and lightning scare him to death. So he's just like curled up underneath the blanket and curled up in my arms and going, "Mommy, I hate thunder." He was just scared of it. But what could I do? It had nothing to do with me. I could have compassion towards him for his freak out moment, for his scare there, but it really had nothing to do with me. So to hold space often means to realize that when we're holding space for somebody else, that we're just doing that. We're just providing the boundaries. We're just putting up those strength barriers so that that container, so that that person can just be. So they feel emotionally secure to just let out whatever they need in that moment, so that they don't feel like they're going to be judged. They don't feel like they're going to be criticized. They don't feel like they're going to be shamed in any way or guilted for having emotion. So then they're not going to really they can just quite literally let their hair down, right? They're just going to go, woo, let it down, let it go. And that is holding space for somebody else. Now, back to every single moment of our life is an emotional moment. We are consistently having emotional responses to every single, through the stimuli that we're getting in our life, right? So look at my morning, right? I got up, I was exhausted, my knee is all busted, so, which is another story, right? Shared a little bit yesterday on that, but so I'm like laying there and my leg is killing me and I'm stuck between little kids. I'm having an emotional response in that moment to just my physical ailment in the moment and the discomfort of my body, and I'm having this emotional trigger because there's a lot of emotional stuff that went into that. So I felt like it was interesting this morning, because of the way I woke up, and I normally try to always do my gratitude prayer in the morning, like not let my feet hit the floor until I get my gratitudes out. And this morning I woke up and I was just like, I was in so much pain. When I came to, I literally was like, damn it. Like, fuck. And I was like, oh, ow, 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 because my leg was just throbbing and sore and my arm was asleep and I couldn't even get off the stupid bed for a second. So my brain instantly went, instead of going to gratitude in that moment, I threw myself into this like almost negative funk on the front side. And then I found myself literally, after I got up and I was like getting some blood flow to my arm and stomping my leg out a little bit so that my knee could get into a better position. Dang it. Like, I touched the ground before I did my gratitude. So I popped off a couple of gratitudes and I started saying some gratitudes in my head as I was coming down the stairs to the kitchen. And then got hit by another emotional trigger, because then I walk in and I'm like, I'm getting coffee, and I'm like, yes, coffee, and I'm having this emotional response. And then I run into what? A mess. Something that was out of my control that I had to deal with. And then at 5:55 in the morning with half awake and already not having a good night's sleep, a little bit more temperamental there as to even be able to deal with something that nobody did. Who knows how the heck water ended up on the counter? It doesn't matter. But to hold space in that moment, not for the water on the counter, not for the coffee, not for the this, not for the that, but for actually just standing there, and as my coffee was making and I'm going, okay, I need to go get a towel, I need to move the stuff off the counter. So that's all the logical 1, 2, 3 part of the brain. But inside that, also having that space, which is what I found myself doing, was just being the witness to all the stuff that was coming up in that moment, because I found myself emotionally triggered by every single one of those little experiences, right? So the morning's already had like all these little itty bitty experiences and interesting events, but I've had they've all been emotionally triggering in some way. Nothing big. It's not like I'm going, right? But noticing inside, and to hold space for self, which is what I'm really getting here, is because I think that in general we suck at holding space for ourselves. We don't just allow ourselves to go, all right, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling like the world hates me, I'm feeling, like I'm being ridiculed, shamed, blah 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 blah, because we don't want to actually be or say that we're pointing, because I think in general, anybody who is on more of a conscious path, we're all nervous to be victims and to point fingers, and we don't want to be perceived or think like somebody who is blaming the world. We want to be responsible for our own actions, our own behaviors, our own this, so we tend to take it all on and go, no, I've got this. But that's not necessarily holding space for self in that moment. What it is that's putting up that wall, that shield, going into warrior mode and really holding everything off, instead of going, okay, I'm really feeling this way right here, and it's okay. So coming back to the holding space of, if you were holding space for somebody else, as the water from my patio cover here drips into my coffee. Just move this right here. But as we're holding space for somebody else, we can just be that strong holding container, right? We can have compassion, we can hold, we can nurture, we can do those things. How do we nurture ourselves? How do we hold space for ourselves? Or do we actually consistently just try to push ourselves to do more, to be better, to hold more for others, to really step into this and step into that, and never ever letting off the brakes for self? And often to hold space for self means to take your foot off the gas and step on the brakes a little bit, pause a moment, give yourself some downtime, give yourself time to process different things that's going on in your life, and noticing of what is coming up, even on the small scope. I mean, like some of the little shit that I shared here this morning, which is really all little stuff, but funny little things in the morning. But to just notice, have that, as I referred to it, the witness, right? The witness being able to pay attention to what is going on, not just externally, because the witness is not necessarily really there for external measures, but it is there for the internal world. As you're doing your internal work, witnessing what is coming up, what is rising up for you, and how is it needing to be expressed? How is it needing to be held? How is it needing to be nurtured, comforted, released? All these different things. That's why I'm such a big time journaler. Anybody who knows me knows that typically what I have is I have like a trash can journal, and then I've got my manifestation journal, and then I have a couple other journals for special times. So, for creation work. But my trash can journal, I do not mix my trash can journal with my creation journal, because I don't want my trash mixed with my good food, right? So I'm wanting to have that. I have my good stuff over there, but I process out like all this negativity or just stuff that is, you could say, like house cleaning stuff. So, you know, like when your house gets dirty, or for like me, I'm moving into a house, so I got boxes all over the place and I got all this different stuff going on. So to have just like that chaos, and in that trash can journal, you just kind of write out the chaos that's going on in here, or that you're feeling. So someplace to just express that and hold space for yourself in the written word, and then that allows you to hold better space for self in your own mind, in your own emotion, in your own physical world, and just to kind of step back and go, you know what, I just really need to go and put my feet up and read a book that's entertaining, that's relaxing, or whatever, you know, or like I just need to go and have a glass of wine. I need to go find some laughter, go hang out with some friends and have some laughter. Whatever those things are that come up for you, that is going to provide that holding of space where you can just go, I have been pushing, and now it's time for me to pause. It's time for me to pause. I see that a few people on here. My phone is lagging a little bit this morning, so I apologize. Good morning, Addison, Ray, and Amy. And I know that I saw a few other people pop on, but I did not catch that then. I was in the middle of my rant here, so did not get an opportunity to say hi there. I got an ice pack on my knee, and it's a little bit cold, and it's dripping, and it's cold. It's dripping in places I don't like ice going. But so yeah, so looking at those spaces that you can really hold that space is what I really would like encourage you. That's what I would encourage you to look at today. I know some of the things that happen when we're not holding space for ourselves, and we're consistently holding space for others, and we're just not giving ourselves that time, that space to really just drop down for ourselves, is that you end up feeling a lot of energy loss, a lot of drain, a lot of, you know, just emotional overwhelm can come from it, because you're allowing yourself to take on all this stuff from other people. And if you're not dealing with your own stuff in that moment, which means holding the space for yourself first, all right, and that this is a really, really little, I feel it's an important point, because there's so many people, especially people, I know a ton of people that are such big-hearted givers out there, and they're constantly give, and they're not good at taking care of themselves. And then they wonder why, you know, why am I feeling fatigued? Why am I feeling energy drain? And it's not, you know, like my situation where I've been moving, I've been in an accident, I've been all this different stuff going on. So I have this emotional drain, and I haven't actually not been putting my emotional stuff out there for too many other people other than my children and some direct people around me. So I'm holding space for a small container of people in one way, and then I'm also holding space for myself in another way, and processing different things. But then I look at other people out there that I just was recently, like somebody asked me yesterday, you know, how do I not take on other people's stuff, right? How do I not take on their stuff, because it's draining me, it's causing this actual physical fatigue. And I'm pretty sure if that person was really getting into it, they would say also an emotional fatigue as well. And that physical emotional fatigue, when we're holding space for others, that we end up basically volunteering and saying, here, let me take your shit, and I'm going to just put it over here on my back, and I'm going to carry it for you. That right there is definitely a decision to take on somebody else's stuff or not. So you can hold space without taking on other people's stuff. And that it comes back to proper boundaries, and just basically back to, there's your stuff, my stuff, and God's stuff. And there's only one of those that I can control, right? So I can't control God's stuff. That's God's business. And for the most part, everything is God's business. I can't control your business. That's stuff that you've got going on. You need to do your work. You need to do your stuff inside. And that means that you're taking care of your stuff. And then there's my stuff, my internal work, my internal thoughts, feelings, actions, which is really the only thing that I'm in control of. Just having that understanding, that awareness, can draw better boundaries for yourself to be able to hold that space without taking on everybody else's stuff. But it's really, really hard because we get into these positions where we look at other people's situations and we feel such connection to what's going on with them. We have, this empathy, compassion, worry, concern around what's going on with another person, and just realizing that a lot of times that is the ego trying to get us involved in other people's stuff to a level that we really can't ever go, and is none of our business. To hold space just means to, quite literally, what can I do for you? I'm here for you. Maybe a personal share of I remember when this happened, a similar situation happened to me, I felt blah, 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 to show that we have an empathetic connection, or that we kind of understand where the person's at. It doesn't mean that you're trying to fix it. It doesn't mean that you're trying to do anything other than just provide connection. So it's just that provide connection. But in that providing connection, you're not taking on this other person's crap as your own, okay? Because we each have our own crap, and we've got enough of it, probably, each of us. I'm pretty sure that everybody has a pretty good hearty trash bag in their life that they're dragging around with them, trying to figure out what to do with. So by taking on other people's stuff, you're definitely not doing yourself any favors. And if you're feeling fatigued and you don't have actual physical stuff going on in your life that would give reason for that fatigue, then look for where you are actually allowing yourself to be drained by others in your life that are basically kind of just draining you in that space. So you think that you're holding space, but you're not just holding space, you're actually giving all your energy away. And again, hit the pause button, hit the brakes, come back, just look at where's my boundaries. Oh, I got too wrapped up in this, I got too wrapped up in that. And you can kind of do that even with yourself on the internal, because in holding space, me and ego talk, right? So a lot of the times what we'll do inside our own heads is that the ego will grab a hold of something, and it'll have us get really caught up in the emotional aspect of what this person did, that person did, this event, that event, and all this different stuff in our own head. And we'll start to feel drained emotionally because we're so focused in on this stuff in the past. So we keep playing that record over and over again, and it's focusing us in, and really just the ego is just running through it, and we're getting drained. So every time you have to realize that in our lives, every time we play a record over and over again, we basically are pulling ourselves back into that energy. So we're pulling ourselves into that instead of consistently moving forward. We're still moving forward, but we're moving forward in the energy of the this that we are replaying, instead of the energy of the here and now, which probably is completely different than what happened last week, last year, 5 years ago, right? So that replay is just keeping us in that energy drain. So that's definitely not holding a really nice, healthy boundaries, and that's what it comes down to. Healthy boundaries for self in that moment. Being able to be the witness is to step in and go, oh, I see what I'm doing to myself here. I'm actually draining myself by focusing in on blah, blah, blah. Okay? So figuring out what that is. So let me see. My packet of ice is dripping all over the place. I'm getting hit by water up above. I'm just complaining, aren't I? All the water that's hitting me this morning. Maybe I'm going through some emotional stuff too. Maybe, possibly. Yeah, I am. But I want everybody to, on here, look at those spaces that you can hold for yourself. Look at how you can have better boundaries And if you don't know what I mean when I say boundaries, then message me, okay? I'm not going to get into that here. Message me like, hey, Kendall, what the heck are you talking about boundaries? I actually get asked that question a lot. There's a lot of people that go, you said boundaries. I don't know what that means. If you don't know what I mean by boundaries, either with another or within yourself, please message me and we can have a little coaching powwow on that stuff, because boundaries are so vitally important, and they literally affect every part of our life, and we're always being given opportunities to establish boundaries, get better boundaries, hold better boundaries, and they also waver like this. And learning your own boundary waiver is a really vitally important process that I think that everybody needs to kind of go into and explore, because boundaries make life a lot easier and a lot more present in a lot of ways. Things just flow better, and you can really, because when you're in your boundaries in that moment with whomever or whatever the situation is, for self and for others, it means that you really are in alignment to your core, to your spirit of the moment, and recognizing where you're at in that moment versus, like the marriage contract that you signed 20 years ago, and then you wonder why you're trying to hold this contract in place that's 20 years old, but you're two completely different people. It's like, no, you need to revisit your boundaries quite literally, probably moment by moment, and depending on who you're with and what's going on and what the situation is, because boundaries consistently change. But they are a very, very vital piece of actually being able to hold space for self and for others, because without those boundaries, you end up getting a big energy drain, and that's not good. So if you have questions about boundaries, message me. If you have questions about wanting to know about, like, okay, we talked all about this holding space stuff this morning, but I don't really get it, what some of the journal prompts that you use, all this different stuff. I do have in the Feel Good Now, I have a whole bunch of the journal prompts. I have a course that's coming out that is all on boundaries, intimacy, and sex, a talk that I did with a couple other educators a couple years ago, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. That's going to be coming out probably, hopefully, by the end of this month or early part of July. But so that's going to be really more of an intensive online course for everybody there. I do want to make a quick announcement, and normally I don't blend in my sexuality practices to my conscious coffee, but I am going to make this little announcement on here, a little bleep you're going to see coming out later today and tomorrow, a whole bunch of stuff, because Addison Bell and I are doing a workshop at the end of the month here in the Dallas area, all on female sexuality. So we bumped up our August orgasm camp to be a June orgasm camp. We thought we would play with that. We're going to do another little version of it in August, but it's going to be completely different, and I'm not going to talk about that one, but it will be on female sexuality in August as well, but it's going to be completely different. This is going to be the trusted, true orgasm camp that I have been doing for the last 6 or 7 years now. Can't believe it's been that long. Absolutely beautiful class focused in on tantric practices, spirituality, understanding, holding space for women. So if you are a guy and you're in the Dallas area and you want to learn how to hold space for your woman, or what that even means, and how can you hold space in your sex in the bedroom and all this different stuff, well, guess what? We're going to be talking about that in that class, because holding space is that important. We're going to be talking about boundaries around sexuality and boundaries with women especially. In that class, we're going to talk about honoring. We're going to talk about, of course, orgasm. We're going to talk about orgasm, lots of orgasms. Guess how many there are? I'm not going to tell you in this little clip here. I'm going to just make you wait on that, or you can go and surf through my stuff and try to find out some different stuff there. But that particular class is coming up on the 23rd, I believe it is. It's the second to the last Saturday of June. So that is coming out, and there is early bird registration on that, and then prices will go up, and prices at the door, of course, are more. But we will be having that in Dallas. So I'm very excited to be able to offer that a little bit early this year. And let me see, yes, in the Feel Good Now class, I've been promoting that a lot, because Feel Good Now class really has everything to do with what I what I share on the Conscious Coffees, and just the practices that I do on a day-to-day basis in my life. So no matter what, and as I keep saying, like I'm working through some stuff, and with move and all this different stuff, I still, like I've had a whole bunch of, quite frankly, some shit hit the fan over the last few weeks. But still in the midst of it, there's been so much blessing for me to focus on. And I just keep coming back to, like, wow, my daily practices, even though I'm like feeling energy drained because I'm just physically like exhausted and healing and all this different stuff going on, and just a lot of transition and growth and all this different stuff, and just a million pieces going a million different directions right now in life. So there's that. But I look at everything that God has brought into my life, and I go, this right here is actually, I set this up. I set it up by keeping my focus consistently on the practices that I do every single morning, and keeping myself aligned here and in a really good connection to self and connection to spirit, to be able to make what I believe is, like always being able to make the decision that I need to make in that moment without too much hesitation or a reserve around it, and just to be able to move forward and stay, for the most part, pretty damn positive inside about what the outcome is going to be. Allowing myself to feel the emotion of like my pissed offness, my anger, my sadness, my whatever is going on, but still keeping that focus of that anger, that frustration, that sadness, those low-level emotions are not kicking the legs out from the good stuff that I've been working on creating. Instead, it's just holding space for those emotions, right? And leaning into, yes, but look at the beautiful sunrise over here of the new day, right? Quite literally, like I was coming down the stairs before I found all the water in the kitchen, and as I'm coming down the stairs, I'm looking out the window that's above my front door, and the sunrise was coming in, and I kicked into the song Sunrise Sunset in my head for some reason from oh gosh, what is that? That's a Fiddler on the Roof. I don't know where that came from, but Fiddler on the Roof was playing in my head this morning as I'm coming down the stairs, because the sky was just lit up with the sunrise, and I love sunrise. I can't make up my mind between sunrise and sunset, but sunrise to me has just always been such an inspirational moment, because when the sun comes up, it really is just that new hope of the day, that new start, and just really being able to just go, yes, like the earth is still spinning, and the sun is still rising, and I'm still breathing, and opportunity is all around, and there's blessing all around, and there's, it's just like, why can't it be a fuck yes day? Why can't it? It can, as long as I designate it to be a fuck yes day. And moving through challenges and different changes in life, transformational things in life, sometimes can feel such like a bog down that you can get caught up in doubt and worry and fear and all these different things. But if you really do the practices like I have lined up in the Feel Good Now class, if you do those and you really focus in and build that muscle, what ends up happening is it's not that you don't experience or feel the ebb and flow of that stuff as you're going through it, but what you are actually doing is you're actually have now a strong muscle, that your guidance system is in place, that you can actually just go in there and keep that focus. You're keeping that focus. So even though there's some negativity on one side, it's not pulling you down, because at your core, you are really tapped in and aligned. So good shit just keeps coming. You just keep manifesting good shit. It's almost like you can't help it. And if you asked a few people in my personal world, I've been just amazed almost to the point that I'm like, man, like this happened, but look at what has come from it. And in the midst of it, I start to like go, what about? And then I realize that I'm going, what about, right? I'm getting caught up in worry and concern, and my ego gets a hold of me, and then I go, I just need to breathe, right? And I try to find a way to bring some laughter in, to bring some connection in, and as soon as I do that, it's like all this other, like, God just throws some blessing at me. I'm like, wow, here's some more blessing, here's some more good stuff. Things just keep working out, and I don't know how, and I don't really care how. I just know that things keep working out. They just keep moving forward in such a positive way that how can I not be in gratitude, right? How can I not be in gratitude? So check out the Feel Good Now course. I cannot push it enough, just because I'm such an advocate of feeling good. And at least, you know, it's not that we're going to feel good every single moment, and shit happens to all of us, but it really is about being in that place and letting things go and setting those boundaries and tapping into your core and getting into that alignment. So, all right, so guys, I'm going to let you go. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming out. If you're not on my newsletter list, get on my newsletter list. You can do that at kendalwilliams.com and sign up for the newsletter. Otherwise, a lot of things do come out here on Facebook. There's just going to be a lot of announcements. I've just got a whole bunch of stuff going on in my head that I just need to translate to my fingertips and get out on my computer and hand off to some people so that they can help me get it all out and promoted and shared, because I've got some really, really fucking amazing ideas coming up. And as the days go on, I'm like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta share. And probably being gone for like 2.5 weeks is also giving me that push there too. So I love you guys. I will catch you tomorrow around 6 a.m.ish. Hopefully not with a flood in my kitchen, and hopefully not with a 5-year-old that's been crying all night about a thunderstorm, and maybe not with the water dripping on me outside here either. But I will catch you around 6 a.m.ish for Conscious Coffee tomorrow, and later today for Desire and Belief, my little daily vlogs that I do here and there. So yesterday was Relationship Tuesday. If you didn't catch that, it's somewhere on my wall here. And later today we're going to be talking about desires and belief, which comes kind of back to what Conscious Coffee is all about, creating that fuck yes life. So remember, stop existing, start living, and go enjoy your awesome, amazing day. Love you guys.